Hello, everybody. Welcome back to 100 Days of Magic. This is day number 66. And today we're going to talk about Apocalypse. Now, Apocalypse came out in June of 2001. It had 143 cards, 44 rare, 44 uncommon, and 55 common, which was pretty standard at the time. So let's get to it. Let's see what's in it for us. Oh, by the way, the set symbol, just FY, is known as Yawgmoth's Mask. So I don't know if we will be seeing this again. I know that they hinted in the Dominaria storyline that we will be going back to New Phyrexia, used to be Mirrodin, at some point in time because Karn got the Golgothian Silex that Urza used to blow up the Phyrexians on Dominaria. He got it and went back home. So eventually, at some point in time, I figure we'll go back there, and Karn will. I mean, it works so well for Urza, right? But anyway, I just thought that was a neat thing. Now, Apocalypse had a cycle, or I don't know if it was really a cycle. Had a bunch of white creatures called flag bearers, and I always liked the enchantment way better than I liked any of the creatures. What the creatures did, the flag bearer quote unquote ability, was anytime anybody played a spell that targeted something, it had to target a flag bearer. Now, the reason why I liked the enchantment here is you get to pick the flag bearers themselves was not a what they did was not awesome. However, you get to pick which creature, which awesome set of abilities on a creature that you want to get targeted repeatedly. What this helps is if you've got an indestructible creature and you can put your flag on it, all destroy effects from your opponents kind of no longer work. I wish it didn't have that first line, only enchant a creature you control, because that would be sick. Divine Light. Now, this is not. I put it up here because it's in the theme of save my creatures, but it doesn't save them as much as we want it to. But for 1 mana at sorcery speed, the best I can do with this is you play it right before you play your chain reaction, blasphemous act, starve extinction, whatever. And because those deal damage as opposed to, and it's kind of, yeah, it's a 2 card combo, it's a stretch, but that is Boros, and if Boros had access to a Plague Wind, I would run it. Enlistment Officer. We had several of these through the set. They are, you reveal the top 4 cards of your library and put all of that creature type. This one happens to be Soldier. Soldier has kind of gotten left by the wayside. Every once in a while, they'll accidentally print a Soldier. But they went hardcore Knights a long time ago, and then Dominaria just pretty much reinforced that. Gerard Capuchin, however, it really pains me. Such an integral character to the storyline, and he was amazing. He was a master at arms. He was the ultimate soldier, and he got such a bad card. However, if you watch the interview with Gavin Verhey and the professor over on his channel, Gavin says something about, we need to make a better Gerard card. So, Shield of Duty and Reason is kind of the other version of what was that mask of thing from the Urza block. Pro green, pro blue, you get protection from your 2 friends, I guess, instead of your 2 enemies, but it's still a 1 mana enchant creature that protects you from, 2 of the 5 colors. It's not bad. Now, Ice Cave. Now, there are a lot of cards in Apocalypse. We're still in the invasion block, But there are a lot of 5-color cards in this set. And while this looks blue, trust me, it's 5-color. Because whenever a player plays a spell, including you, any other player may pay that spell's mana cost to counter the spell. And then, of course, it specifies mana cost includes color. So if you are playing a 5-color deck, which is what you want to be doing if you're running Ice Cave, actually, I think you may want to turn that around backwards. You may want to be running Ice Cave if you're running a 5-color deck, because this gives you the option to counter anybody's everything. Yeah. Now, everybody else has that option as well, but there's a good chance you're the only 5-color deck at the table. Desolation Angel is the the pure definition of mandatory kicker. You can cast her for 5 and kind of lose the game. Well, I don't know. Black, white, maybe you've got some land shenanigans going where you can... I got nothing there. But for 7 mana, she becomes, the Sarageddon in 1 card. So it's really kind of neat, and that artwork is outstanding. This was the set that gave us Phyrexian Arena. We all know and love this card. It is beautiful. There's some debate amongst the EDH community about, yes, there are better cards in black for drawing you cards than Phyrexian Arena. There are, no doubt. But Phyrexian Arena is depending on how long the game is going to go after you cast it, that's how much worth you're going to get out of it, by the way. And it is just, if you turn 3 this Joker, then yes, you're going to get some value out of it. But late game, if you play it and you only get 2 extra cards off of it, a Read the Bones, a Sign in Blood, whatever, would have probably been just as good. But a little flavor note about this. The arena here, this is Gerard and Urza. Yawgmoth put them both in his arena and made them fight to the death. Now, in this arena, Urza's Planeswalker powers were nullified. So he was just, old man wizard. I think he didn't even have wizard abilities. So you've got a Master at Arms versus, several thousand-year-old guy. You can guess who won that. That's how Gerard ends up in the arena decapitating Urza, and that's how Urza's head becomes a character of its own. The Goblin Ringleader is the Goblin... I almost said Gator, and then it's not a Gator, and I almost said Recruiter, it's not a Recruiter. Is the Goblin Impulse. Reveal the top 4 cards. Yeah. It's a Goblin Impulse. That's what they are. So this is a lot better than the Soldier one, because there's been more Goblin support printed. So it's pretty decent too. And yet even more Elf support has been made. The fact that this one has Trample is kind of comical to me. I love it. I've won games because it has Trample. Because, giving elves +1/+1 is a thing they like to print, I don't know, every other year. Symbiotic Deployment is a card. Now, keep in mind, this is a special card to play with. Okay, and that first line turns most people off. Just straight up skip your draw step. Now, but if you are running, and they kind of tell us in the art, run elves with this. And I'm kind of guilty of not doing it too. Maybe one of these... I've got several elf tribal decks up here, and I think one of them is more geared toward mana elves. So, and yeah, we do have better options nowadays to draw cards in green. But if we've got the ability to tap mana elves, and I don't know. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it does exist. Urborg Elf. The green, blue, black. Y'all got to help me out. I don't know my. This is green and it's two enemies. What is that? Is that a wedge or is that a shard? I think that's a shard. I don't know. Is that what they call Sultai? I don't know. I'm doing good to know my 10 gills. But anyway, a lot of people don't know this elf exists. And for decks of those three colors, this can be a real big helper. Chromat Legend. Now, my Chromat is a domain deck, meaning I'm playing, at least the goal is to get one of each of the basics and do shenanigans off of that. But this pretty much does everything, and it really highlights what Apocalypse is all about. Apocalypse is all about enemy color. Now, there have been a few sets since then that have focused on enemy color, but this was the first. Apocalypse was it. We got Eventide that did enemy color hybrid. We've got some of the, just random enemy color stuff. But Apocalypse was the first one to focus on opposing colors working together. And Chromat, yeah, it just kind of does all the things. I mean, it gets bigger, it dodges removal, it regenerates, it flies, it blocks whatever, or it kills whatever. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a decent 5-color commander. Death Grasp. If you just want to play an Orzhov drain life, here you go. Now, the minutia is a little different, but most of the time, your results will be the same. X damage to a target, and then you gain X life. Now, Fervent Charge. If you've got one of those decks that are, taking many combat steps, Fervent Charge is probably pretty good. Now, it's hard to balance that. It's hard to find room for this card in those decks because you either want to have big, powerful creatures, or you want to have more combat steps, or you want to have mana fixing a card draw. So it's, yeah, I get it. Between all the areas you want to hit, it's hard to find room for enchantment that appears to do nothing. However, if you are, just attacking. Wait a minute. Isn't white, black, red, isn't this Edgar Markov's colors? Think about just dropping this in your Edgar Markov deck. If you've gone the route of just play cheap vampires because they're all buy one, get one, and then swing with them and they instantly get +2, both of those ideologies are sound. Goblin Trenches. Note about Goblin Trenches, we are in a time in Apocalypse before they started printing tokens. So they actually, as part of the Magic Player Rewards, when the set came out, they actually made the 1/1 red and white Goblin Soldier token. This is also a thing. I love the fact that they are goblins and soldiers. Triggers off different things. But you do got to sack a land, and that is in red-white. Obviously, you're probably playing red-white X, another color, to be able to get your lands back, or, Planar Birth is a thing here, too, because it's just gets all of your basics back. Now, Guided Passage is a card I've never seen cast in Commander. I used it all the time. I've got it in a few decks, but I haven't ever drawn it. I've never cast it either. I'm just as guilty as anybody else. But what it is you're getting the 3 worst cards in your deck. However, here's the beautiful part about it. You're getting the opponent that you choose. You're getting what they think the worst 3 cards are. Or the 3 cards that are not going to hurt them as much. Now, it is very possible for one player to pull way ahead. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Somebody just gets off to, either they come back from a board wipe or they start the game running and they just jump out ahead of everybody else. Well, you pick another player who's in the same boat that you are and like, hey, give me something to deal with this. And a lot of times, they'll help you out. because they're in the same boat you are. Last Stand. Now, this is another card hard to make work, but if you're already running a 5-color deck and you have Prismatic Omen that makes all your lands all basic land types, Last Stand can be a beaten in and of itself. I mean, just gonna do all the things for each land you control if you've got the Prismatic Omen, that's about the only way I would consider running Last Stand. Miss America. She was the first red, white, blue angel that we ever got. She may be the only red, white, blue. No, she can't be. They've had to visit this trope more than that. But I love the fact of how they represented her as Arcade Post. I think I got one of these signed 2 weeks ago, or 3, or whenever it was now. But I love the balance. It's got the blue ability in flying, the red ability in haste, and the white ability in vigilance. Throw it on a 3/4 body. This thing, I kind of want to build red, white, blue angels. But there's just not enough, I don't think. Now, the reason why I have Llanowar Dead, in Apocalypse, we had a cycle. There was what they did, because it was enemy color, they took opposing things, like this is a zombie elf. There is a merfolk elf, I believe. And the reason why Llanowar Dead grabbed me is there's not many elves out there that tap for black. And if you're running, I don't know, Glissa or any kind of black, green, Golgari, and you need black mana, you ain't got a lot of options for mana dorks. This is a set that gave us Mystic Snake, everybody's favorite creature to bounce. I like to use it with that card that says, during your upkeep, put a green creature back in your hand. There's like 50 of them, but I like that because everybody knows you've always got that counterspell at the ready. Overgrown Estate. Here again, another decent one if you are trying to cycle your lands through your graveyard or gain a ton of life, what have you. The only problem is with back then they had this ability in black, green, white, and I think if they'd printed it today, that mana cost may look a little different. I don't know. Pernicious Deed, probably the powerhouse of the whole dang set. It is beautiful. Artifact creature enchantment with converted mana cost X or less. Can't tell you how many times I've cast it and immediately sacrificed it paying 0 to kill off, all of the egg problems in the world. Powerstone Minefield. Now, this is a card not worth very much as far as dollars and cents wise, but it is. See, the problem here in our format is that Boros tends to lend itself to smaller creatures that Worn Powerstone would kill. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say this is in my Tribal Giants deck because it's Brian Stoutarm, red, white, and it's not going to kill any creature in it, but it will kill every elf, goblin, sapperling, most creatures that, you get swarmed with. Your token player hates this card. But it's a decent card. I think probably would have been better as an uncommon. Because there was a certain feel bad to buying Apocalypse packs and opening up your Powerstone Minefield as your rare. Spiritmonger. Now this guy was insane. He 6/6 for 5, which is already at the time above the curve. And then whenever it deals damage to a creature, it gets a +1/+1 counter. Regenerates and of course becomes the color of your choice. You did that to avoid protection or whatever. Now, I don't know. Some part of me, I love to do janky things. Like I would love to put like a Viridian bow on this guy and turn him into a plinker so that he just keeps getting those counters. I don't know. It's a stretch, but he's fun. Suffocating Blast. This can be... Now, 4 mana counters. At the time, we thought this was terrible. Today, this is almost the standard. A hard counter is 4 mana, or a hard counter plus ability is 4 mana. That's just what they're printing. So this was maybe just ahead of the curve. Maybe they showed us this and the others, but Absorb and Undermine were just 3 mana, so I don't know. Being able to counter their spell and shoot their creature is a pretty, that's an insult to injury type deal there. Vindicate. When this set hit, I bought 4 foil Vindicates. Played with them all the way through Standard. Sold them at the end after they rotated, after they had taken the price plummet. And still got $30 more out of the playset than I put in it. Yeah. And I kind of wish I'd never sold them. Because, it's Vindicate and it's awesome. But I have trouble thinking of a better removal spell. There are, the trophy's pretty decent, but this is 3 mana. Destroy target thing. Ugh, so good. Life and Death was one of my favorites because this was exactly... I never used the life part of it. I always used the death simply because this was the my other copy of Reanimate. It was a very, very common play pattern for me at the time was Swamp, Dark Ritual, Entomb, Death. That's how I get a turn 1 Rhea. Or a turn 1 Braids. Brass Herald. Now, Brass Herald doesn't seem like much, and they've tried to force us on it many times when they've done a tribal thing, and they'll reprint it and bring him back. And I think they even printed him as rare in one of the core sets, maybe a couple of them. But the reason why I bring him up here is I like to play unsupported tribes, the unsung heroes. You know what I'm saying? I like those tribes that don't get a ton of love. That's why my very favorite deck is Tribal Griffins. But now Brass Herald's not in there because, he doesn't fly. Yeah, but he is totally in Tribal Golems. All the way. But he does the impulse for whatever just like the Goblin and Soldier and Elf one do. But he also gives them +1/+1. So it's not a bad card, but it's probably only getting used in tribes, as I said, where there's not a lot of support for. Dragon Arch is getting used all the time, everywhere. Multicolor creature. We play in a format that is mostly multicolored. And I have just, you can spend 2 mana and drop a Progenitus at instant speed if that's your jam. And if you're playing 5 color, that might be the jam to do. Progenitus is probably your commander in that point, but I don't know. But it's really nice. There's a lot of multicolor creatures that you can surprise block with. Legacy Weapon. Another 5 color card. I told you this set was all about all 5 colors because this was supposed to be the culmination of the storyline from the past. Gosh, it was... I can't remember how many sets. There was many, many books. Back then, you got a novel with your Fat Pack. And I had all those books. I let a buddy borrow them. He still got them. Hit me up, Derek. But it was, 14, 15 sets, maybe more than that. And this was the culmination. So this was the end-all, be-all battle. It was held on Dominaria. They had already overlaid Wrath onto Dominaria. And this was actually the last time that we saw Dominaria before Time Spiral, which actually this was not the culmination of the story. It wasn't. It was billed as it, but everything that happened after this and in between Apocalypse and Time Spiral was still part of the overarching Dominaran story, because Dominaria is the center of the multiverse. And what happened here, because of everything that has been happening on Dominaria, has allowed all the things in Kamigawa to happen, have allowed all the things in Ravnica to happen, and Mirrodin to even just be created. It allowed for everything after that, and then finally they come back in one fell swoop, and it was like, just kidding. It was all the same story. You just didn't know it. But anyway, getting off on the story and not quite the card. For here again, your Prismatic Omen. This is, yeah, it is good. Now, they come up with this rider, the last line here, so that you can't cheat it into play. Put it in the graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into the library, so you can't, do crazy artifact regrow shenanigans. As I said, this was enemy color, and I don't have all 5 of the enemy color pain lands here listed. This was the first one, so I just grabbed it. Just happens to be Boros. Now, these things come and go through every set. I mean, it's one of their goes to every 4 or 5 years or so for something. Either if it's not a core set, it'll be a supplementary item or whatever. But the pain lands, they're good. These are the enemy colors for the cycle that we got originally in Ice Age. So between Ice Age and Apocalypse, we finally had all 10. And that's what we've got for Apocalypse. I do appreciate y'all watching. I know in a couple previous videos I've had some sound issues. I've tried hard to, and I think I've chased it down. Y'all let me know if it's actually the sound is good or the sound is working and whatnot. But I do appreciate your comments. It helps me become a better content creator. Y'all let me know what you think. And I think we will see y'all tomorrow.